Hello, everybody. It is time for Wellness Wednesdays. You know, on Wednesday we do this Wellness Wednesday. It's typically myself and Dion Murphy with her virtual gym. We are both running a little behind schedule tonight, but I wanted to hop on as promised just to let you know that pollen is taking over. So how many of you have seen pollen, this yellow greenish tint outside on your cars? You might see it outside on your lawn furniture, just outside in general. That's what we call pollen. I posted a picture on my personal news feed about pollen. For those of you who are not in North Carolina and other parts of the country or state, then you may need to see what this pollen is looking like. So I had the car outside for just a little bit today, and it was covered in pollen. So if you are tuning in, I am Nikedra Brown. I am the nurse practitioner with Zing Services who teaches and trains you on ways to get and stay healthy. And so I do this thing called Wellness Wednesdays on Wednesday nights just to make sure that you all get some of the education and training that you need. So if you don't follow us, typically during the week at 9 o'clock, we do our health education segment with our health educator, Jalexis Smith. So make sure you are tuning into that. If you haven't already, make sure you're sharing this video out, because I know there are lots of people who are affected by the pollen, and you're going to want to hear this conversation about pollen and what it's doing to you. So how many of you are seeing pollen in your neck of the woods? Hey, Ola, thanks for hopping on. How many of you are seeing pollen where you are? I know I'm not alone by looking outside and seeing lots of pollen. I know that I am not alone. So how many of you are seeing this where you are? If the pollen is taking over, just give me a thumbs up or a yes in the comments. We're going to talk a little bit about pollen, why we actually need pollen, why it's actually okay for your immune system to process this pollen, but in the meantime, what it does for you and your body. So let me share this out to a couple of my groups, and then we're going to get started talking about pollen. Y'all say hello as you come on in, and make sure you share this out. Alright, so the first thing I should let you know is that pollen, and I'm going to be looking at my notes, so I might not be looking at you, but just know I'm going to give you this content. Thanks for the thumbs up, Ola. As y'all come on in, go ahead and introduce yourselves. You know I love to see you as you come in. So, the thing that keeps me busy in healthcare this time of year is the pollen. So not only is it outside on your cars, on your equipment, outside everywhere, it actually drives sales in terms of healthcare this time of year. Because many of you are having problems with your nose, your eyes, you're watery, you're itchy, and so that drives you into your healthcare professional's office. It is actually one of the common causes of allergies in the United States. Pollen. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Pollen is one of the most common causes of allergies in the United States. Now, it's a fine powder, and it's produced by trees, by flowers, by grasses, and it fertilizes plants of the same species. And so actually you need pollen in order to continue to have those green grasses, those flowers, those trees. So you need that pollen in the atmosphere. It's a very fine powder, and I know you've seen it all over your cars, all outside. It's making lots of you be very symptomatic, and your immune system actually responds to the pollen. So that's why you may be having some symptoms. So our immune system typically responds to viruses like the flu or a cold. It also responds to bacteria like pneumonias or strep throat or bacteria. So your immune system, the body is made so that your immune system responds to viruses and bacteria. However, your body also responds to pollens. It also responds to allergens. I'm going to just say pollen, but there are many triggers if you're allergic. That's why you're allergic, because your body is responding. Now, we know that pollen is not harmful, right? It's this fine powdery substance we've already said. So it's not harmful, but what your body does is it identifies it as a dangerous intruder. And some of you may think, yeah, it is actually dangerous. My body is responding appropriately, but your body recognizes pollen as being dangerous. And when it recognizes the pollen as being dangerous, It responds just like it does to bacteria, just like it does to a cold, just like it does to other viruses. And so that's why you get some of the symptoms. Tell me what symptoms you get when you are exposed to pollens. I know that some of you are very symptomatic. It's that time of year we're seeing lots and lots of people who are having symptoms of allergies due to the pollen. So what types of symptoms are you having? Why are you having those symptoms? You're having those symptoms because your body is recognizing the pollen as actually an intruder in your immune system, and it is responding accordingly. So I know there's a delay on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram. So let me know what type of symptoms you have or people around you may be having because of the pollen. So while you are doing that, let me just say a couple things. On Saturday, if you are in Eastern North Carolina, we are going to be at the 411 Health Fair, sponsored by Beaufort County Health Department. You can come there and get your free health screenings, your blood pressure checks, cholesterol, weight, height, all that good jazz. It is going to be outside, so how fitting that we're talking about pollen and the outside triggers. You can find out if you listen to the news. You can Google the pollen count for the day. So if you hear them talking about if it's a high pollen index day or if it's low pollen count, that tells you some of if you're going to see waves of pollen outside, if it's going to be everywhere, or if the count is low. What do you think happens to the pollen once it rains? The count goes down, right? That's why everybody wants it to rain. They're hoping for rain because they know that the pollen count goes down. But in the meanwhile, we need this pollen. So I know you don't think so, but we actually need this pollen. We need this pollen because you like green grass, you like to see trees, you like to see your flowers blooming. For those of you who are already outside working in your gardens, you like that stuff. And so that's why we need pollen, because every year when we say these things come back without you needing to do anything, that's because the pollen is germinating it for the next year. So it is also making you symptomatic though. So I've asked, what are some symptoms of the pollen? I see those comments coming in. Go ahead and tell me what your pollen symptoms are, because I know that some of you have lots of symptoms. It is actually bringing lots of people in to see me this time of year. I see watery eyes from Ola. I see coughing. What are some symptoms that you all have from the pollen? Because I know she's not alone, and the people that she knows are not alone as it relates to pollen. Most commonly, people are congested. So your nose is stuffy. Most people are congested. Your nose is stuffy. People tell me, well, initially I thought it was just a cold. I thought that I was having a cold. But then you realize that your cold actually doesn't give you quite the watery and itchy eyes that the pollen does. You get a stuffy nose. And so you can have some triggers all year round. So some people have, so their grass, their trees, their flowers all year round. And then sometimes people just have them in the spring. Sometimes people just only have these allergens in the fall. There is pollen all year round. It's just a matter of what trees, grasses, or flowers are actually germinating the pollen at the time. So if you are more symptomatic this time of year, then quite obviously it is something this time of year that is triggering you. Most of the time it is grass this time of year, and also flowers. Birch, which is a tree, is also one of the main triggers this time of year. So what are the symptoms? See, lots of people with symptoms of allergies and sinus problems. They have congestion, sinus pressure. You get a headache here. You feel congested here. Your nose runs. You have itchy, watery eyes. Again, you see how you can be confused and think this initially is a cold. Some people say they have an itchy throat. There's coughing. You have some discoloration sometimes in the skin under your eyes. Kids typically have those. We call them allergic shiners. So kids will typically have some discoloration under their eyes. Because of the itchy eyes, they tend to keep their hands in their eyes a lot. They get sent home because teachers think they have pink eye, when actually they have allergic conjunctivitis or allergy problems related to their eyes. Sometimes it can change your sense of taste or your sense of smell. And if you have asthma, you should really look out, because you also get triggered from a lung standpoint, because the pollen sometimes can get into your airway. And so there is lots of things that you can do for the pollen. The simplest thing you can do is actually take a antihistamine. So if you don't want to take medicines, let's talk about a few things you can do to help decrease your symptoms. Again, if you're just hopping on, I am Nikita Brown. I am the nurse practitioner with Zing Life Services, and we teach and train you on ways to get and stay healthy. We're talking about pollen tonight, this yellow, greenish, powdery substance that's outside on your cars, on your lawn furniture. I was outside this morning, I saw waves of it just moving with the wind. It's quite amazing. I've seen a couple of patients who are just in North Carolina for their first spring, and they are astonished by the pollen. They have never seen anything like it. I'm originally from North Carolina, and so I'm fairly used to it. But you can imagine that people who are not from here, their body is going haywire. And even some of you may be actually from North Carolina, but we've already talked about that this pollen is a substance that your body recognizes as foreign. And so because it recognizes it as foreign, it responds accordingly. And so that's why you're having those symptoms that we just talked about. Go ahead and keep putting your symptoms that you have in the comments, because everybody responds a little bit differently. While you keep putting your symptoms in the comments, tell me how you treat your allergies. Again, people do things differently. I've seen a lot of people who use some home remedies. They do things differently as it relates to their allergies, because again, if you are allergic, this is also key. If you are allergic 1 year to pollen, guess what? You will be allergic the next year to pollen. Every year, patients tell me, I know this has happened last year and the year before, but this year I just thought it would be different. No, no, no. Let me go ahead and let you know. If you are allergic this year, you will be allergic to pollen next year. You will be allergic to it the next year. Sometimes if you move, there are different grasses, there are different trees, there are different things that pollinate and grow in that area, so you may not have as strong an allergy as you do, but you will likely be allergic to that. So if you lived in the same place, or you moved to a place and you know you have really strong allergies, more than likely every year about that time you are going to have symptoms of your allergies. So don't think and don't delay your treatment because you feel like this year is going to be the year that you don't actually have it. That's probably not going to be the case. And when you delay starting your treatment, be it with medication or be it with symptomatic treatment, then you actually increase your risk for getting sinus infection versus just a response from your body. Now, before I move forward, let me talk about this response from your body, because we are going to do a series called Life Simple 7 with Zing Life Services. So if you follow me on Zing Life Services, you know that we teach and train you on ways to get and stay healthy. We are excited that on Sunday we are gearing up for our 7 ways to keep life simple. We're giving up for our 7 ways to keep life simple. Yes. Okay, y'all keep your hands to yourself. Thank you. That's another way to keep life simple. Keep your hands to yourself. All right, so we're gearing up for our Life Simple 7 challenge. It's going to start on Sunday, bit.ly/LifeSimple7. It is an online challenge. We're going to send you simple tips every day to help you live a long life. It's just that simple. There are some simple things that you all should be doing and you could be doing, but you're not doing them. And because you're not doing them, that's impacting your health, your overall health. So join us starting on Sunday. Go ahead and register at bit.ly/LifeSimple7 so that you can be a part of this simple 7 ways to improve your life. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of you all there. Now, let's talk more about our sinuses and allergies. Hi, all of you in the comments. I cannot see your comments for some reason, so I'll have to go back and reply to them all. But thank you for everybody who's tuning in. Make sure you're sharing this video out, because I know plenty of you are affected by pollen that is out in the community. Let's talk about what you can do to help minimize your exposure to pollen. How can you minimize your exposure to pollen? The first thing you can do is stay inside. That's shocking, right? Especially when you have work, you have school, you have to take people here and there, you have to go places. But primarily, you want to stay inside, especially on windy days. So remember when I said today I was outside and I saw this gust of pollen come through because the wind was blowing? yeah, you want to stay inside on windy days. Also, the little person that was just in here, he actually has allergies more so than my other child. And so I asked them at school not to take him outside on high pollen count days and windy days like today, because his eyes are awfully affected if he gets the pollen in them from outside. So what I say to them is, I'm not sure what you need to do, but I do know that he doesn't need to go outside, because that pollen irritates his eyes. They get itchy, and it's just a downhill spiral if we let him come into contact unnecessarily with pollen. Now, sometimes you can't help it. I know it would be a simple fix. I just talked about Life Simple 7. It would be such a simple fix to not go outside, right? But I know that we cannot do that. So what else can you do instead of not going outside? Tell me in the comments, what is it that you are doing to help decrease your risk for pollen exposure? The next thing you can do is to close your doors and your windows. So I oftentimes hear people say, oh, it was such a nice day outside. I opened the windows, and when I came home, there was this dust or this film of pollen all over my room. Don't you know if you open the window in your bedroom and your bed is exposed, your pillows are exposed, this pollen, you can't always see it unless it's super thick. So because you can't always see it, it could be coming in through your screen, and it is infiltrating your bedding. So it is getting on your pillows, it is getting in your sheets, and then you lay down on that. And your face and eyes are in contact with the pillow, which has pollen on it, and it's just a downward spiral. You can't figure out why you keep being exposed, what's making you symptomatic. Well, it's because you're laying on a pillow that's full of pollen. The same thing with things that you have in your room, chairs that may be exposed. If you have clothes that you have laying out and the windows are open, you can get pollen in your clothes. So just think about closing your doors. I know it's nice outside. Your doors and your windows, if they have screens and the pollen can come through, you're going to want to decrease and close those if the pollen count is high. Yes, Ola, don't drive with the windows down. So I saw a patient yesterday. He has a convertible. He has a convertible. And so he has a convertible. Talk about maximum pollen exposure, right? So of course his top is down because it was a nice day on yesterday. And so he is maximally exposing himself to the pollens that are outside. So absolutely, even if you don't have a convertible and you just have your regular cars, also your sunroof. So you're going to want to watch that. Anything that can increase your exposure. I showed you that picture. If you haven't seen it already, you look on my news feed, you'll see a picture of my black car that was full of pollen. So think about if I had the sunroof to the car open, how that pollen would just infiltrate inside of the car on the seats, on different things that I have in the car. So yes, don't ride with your windows open. The next thing you can do is make sure that you take care of your yard work during low wind days or low pollen days. And so we know you have gardening to do. We know you want to get your lawns so tidy. Those of you who are in your community best lawn races, you want to make sure you get your lawns in order, but you also want to take care of yourself. So for those of you just tuning in, we are talking about pollen tonight. We're talking about this non-harmful substance that is making lots of you symptomatic, making you sneeze and cough and your eyes get itchy. You may have a respiratory or asthmatic flare because of the pollen. So we're also talking about now how you can minimize your exposure. So you want to do your yard or your gardening on days that are low pollen counts, because remember, we need the pollen. The pollen is what helps the trees and the grass and things to come back year after year, but you also need to minimize your exposure. Last is you want to wear a dust mask. If you do have to go outside, mow the yard and lawn, which you will have to do, you want to wear a mask that is going to decrease the exposure. So the mask can be over your nose and your mouth. You can take it a step further and wear goggles over your eyes. And so your eyes are also very vulnerable while we're talking about the eyes. Sunglasses are helpful. So not only does the sunglasses protect you from pollen, but the sunglasses also, the sunglasses protect you from sun, but the sunglasses also protect the pollen from getting into your eyes and to keep you from not being so symptomatic. So you want to make sure you're wearing dust masks. Put on your sunglasses when you're outside. and help to decrease your pollen count. So keep your carpet clean, absolutely. And so I had a patient also who said that she has an animal and she let the animal outside. And when that pet came back in, there was tracks of pollen all over the hardwood floor. So absolutely, if they do it on the floor, then that pollen is setting into the carpet, and then you sit on the carpet or somebody flares up the pollen from the carpet, and so it can all increase your exposure for pollen. That's absolutely correct. So what sorts of things can people take? Because there are some things that are over the counter. What kinds of things do you all take for your allergy symptoms? It's that time of year. So if you go and look at the shelf, there are bare shelves. I went and looked at where I work, and there are bare shelves as it relates to the allergy medicines, because everybody is so flared now. Everybody is so symptomatic. And so what sorts of things do you take over the counter? You might be able to help some people. I'm going to tell you what my favorites are, just because I'm going to give you that one tonight, so I can keep you all maybe from going to your primary care provider's office, when you can go ahead and start some things right now. So again, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Nakedra Brown. I'm the nurse practitioner who teaches and trains you on ways to get and stay healthy. We're talking about pollen tonight. I'm going to tell you what some of my favorites are, but if you want my favorites, you're going to have to share this video out so that people who aren't already in the know about our Wellness Wednesday will know, and so they'll start following us on Zing Life Services and for Wellness Wednesday. I don't think Deanna is going to be able to hop on tonight. For those of you who are used to seeing her, she and I were pushing, trying to get to our respective homes to get to in front of you tonight for Wellness Wednesday, and I don't think she's going to be able to hop on, but we will collaborate with her on next week. She was going to add the piece about working out and fitness routines that you do outside when the pollen is in high count, and how you can transition those to the inside. So if you know Dion, you see us on Wellness Wednesday, go ahead and follow her at her virtual gym, and we'll get her to loop in what she can do, or what you can do at home if you're not able to go outside as it relates to pollen. So I'm waiting for you all to tell me what it is that you like to use when you have some allergy problems. So I'm looking at the comments. I'm seeing some of them. Local honey. So Valavia has hit one of my absolute favorites. I see that Ola is saying Benadryl. So let's talk about that a little bit. So we've already said that your allergies, your body responds to pollen in a way that it thinks the pollen is harmful. But we all know that pollen is really not harmful. So because your body thinks the pollen is harmful, it starts to react and respond. And so when it reacts and responds, that's when you become symptomatic with cough, congestion. Some people run a low-grade temp because your immune system is fighting off the response. And so you should take, we talked about some things to minimize your exposure. So if you didn't already see that, you're going to want to flip over to or watch the replay for the minimizing exposure. So now I'm asking you, what sorts of things do you take if minimizing your exposure is not enough? I've heard Benadryl, I've heard local honey, and so let's talk about a couple of those things. So antihistamines. Let's talk about antihistamines and the long and short of how they work, because you all do it all wrong. Let me just go ahead and tell you, you do it all wrong. You do it all wrong. You do it all wrong. Make sure you share this video out, because other people are doing it all wrong too. By the time you come to see me in the office, you have either one, not taken any antihistamine, or two, you have taken one dose of it and is convinced that it didn't work, and so you stop taking it, right? And your symptoms continue to progress because you keep being exposed to pollen. You keep having to go outside for work, go to your car, you keep rolling your windows down, and so the antihistamine you feel is not working. Now, Benadryl is an antihistamine, Ola, so yes, you are correct in that regard, but it is a short-acting antihistamine. So because it is a short-acting antihistamine, it doesn't stay in your system for 24 hours, and obviously we need something that stays in our system for 24 hours because we are exposed for a lot longer time. We are exposed every time we go in and out. We talked about people and pets tracking pollen inside. It may be on our bedding. It may be on things that we've taken outside. And so you want something that's going to be a longer acting antihistamine. What Benadryl does give you most of the time is your sleep component. So it does make you sleepy, and people can take it because they may be congested and just not able to get a restful night's sleep. But if you want the best bang for your buck, you're going to want to get a long-acting antihistamine, which is Claritin. I saw that Ty said the Up and Up brand of allergy medicine. So you want any of them that's just once a day. So if it says take it once a day, those are going to be 24 hours. That's your hint that they're 24 hours. Once a day. I actually like Claritin. It's typically non-sedating. It doesn't interact with any other medicines. It's a small pill. The price point of it, since it's over the counter, runs a little bit lower than your Allegra and your Zyrtec. But different antihistamines work differently for everybody. And so while Claritin may work for you, Zyrtec may work for somebody else, and Allegra works for the next person. How do you know which works for you? You have to try it. And the key is, with most things, is you have to be consistent. That's what you all do wrong. That's what you do wrong. You are not consistent. You will take it for one day, and then you'll say, yep, this didn't work. And the next day you don't take it. Or you take it for 2 days, and you say, nope, it didn't work. And you stop taking it. You have to take it for at least 3 days before you can see the maximum benefit of your antihistamine. So when I see you in the office and you just took it for 1 day, for 2 days, or you skipped 2 days because you weren't outside, you're taking it all wrong. You're taking it all wrong. And so because of that, the inflammation that the pollen is doing to your sinuses is continuing. And you're saying that, but I still feel sick. Right, because you're not consistently taking your antihistamine. So, point number 1, make sure you take your antihistamines. Make sure you take them consistently, and you want the one that's 1 time a day, because that means it's long-acting and it's going to stay in your system. People ask me all the time, well, what about decongestants? Decongestants are pacifiers, is what I tell my patients. They are just pacifiers. They suck the fluid out and get you opening your airway, but because the problem is the trigger from the pollen, after the 4 to 6 hours of decongestant wears off, you're symptomatic again. And so you need the antihistamine. You can't just take Sudafed or Afrin nasal spray, or I think Mucinex has a decongestant spray now. You can't just take your decongestant without the antihistamine. Tip number 2, you get more bang for your buck if you take the antihistamine and add the decongestant on if you need it. Because the problem is the trigger, the allergen, the pollen. And while you can't totally eradicate your exposure to the pollen, you want the antihistamine to stop the histamine response, which is the inflammation from your body. Does everybody have that? Say something to let me know that you have that. That is key. That is a key point. That is a key point. So that is key. I see Tanika on. Hey Tanika, how are you doing? I see that you are using some prescription from the doctor as it relates to your allergy pills. Right. And so loratadine, yes, you use loratadine, Valavia. I actually do too. We need some right now. We need some right now. That is the generic of Claritin. So most of them have generics. The generic of Claritin is loratadine. The generic of Allegra is fexofenadine. The generic of Zyrtec is sertrazine. Whatever floats your boat. I don't see a whole lot of difference clinically in the brand versus generic. I personally take the generic of Claritin. If people have particular allergens, then sometimes I will say brand only. But as a general rule, if it works for you, you can try a generic, you can take a generic. It's going to get you a little bit on your price pump. So, lower. Alright, so I see you all logging in. Yes, 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 you got it. The antihistamine plus the decongestant. Your decongestant is just a pacifier. You must, I repeat, must have the antihistamine. So Tanika is talking about the prescription. She's also talking about skin is extra itchy. Why do you think her skin is itchy? Oh, this is good. Y'all are having some good comments. I love, love, love it. Hey, Deanna. Thank you for hopping in. I see Ty's here. I see Vanessa was on. For those of you who are still here, hello. I can't see all the comments, but thank you. Miss Minnie is on Instagram. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Go ahead and share this video out if you haven't already. This is a good conversation about allergens and pollens. I'm giving you some nuggets that people pay me for, right? People pay me good money to come and for me to tell them, yep, you need to take loratadine or Claritin. So you can go ahead and start that before you go to your provider's office. How many days must you take your antihistamine before you determine that it is not effective? How many days must you take your antihistamine before you determine that it's not effective or it's not working? I want to hear it. And yes, I do hear. Ty said 7. Who else wants to guess? How many minimum days must you take the antihistamine? I see the answers coming in about why Tanika's skin is itchy. And so I'm going to address that. If you're just tuning in and you didn't hear my announcements, let me let you know what my announcements are. If you're in Eastern North Carolina, we need to see you on Saturday at Beaufort County Health Department, 411 Health Fair, free health screenings. We are doing blood pressure checks, cholesterol checks, height, weight, screening. We are bringing care to the community along with Beaufort County Health Department. So for those of you who need those free health screenings, meet us from 10 to 2 at Washington, North Carolina at the Beaufort County Health Department, 411 Health Fair. You see more information about that on Zing Life Services page. Make sure you share it out because people may be in Eastern North Carolina and they can tune in. They can hop on and come aboard with us if you want to volunteer with us. We have those opportunities available on Saturday as well. And Life Simple 7. So we're going to talk about why Tanika's skin is itchy. But Life Simple 7 is starting on Sunday. And so for those of you who are interested in finding out simple things to do in life to help live a longer life, it's going to be some tips just like this, but they're going to be categorized into 7 things you need to do. You should go to bit.ly/lifesimple7 to register for our free challenge. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have emails sent to you with videos regarding our tip for the day and your challenge. And so when you get the challenge, we're going to ask you to commit to challenging yourself. We're going to ask that you start taking that challenge with us and that you continue for the week. We're then going to come on for a live Q&A, much like we're having right now with your questions. And so I think it'll be very good to just get the Life Simple 7 and to actually give you some feedback. So bit.ly/lifesimple7 is where you can sign up for that. Hope to see some of you all in the challenge. And Ola got it. 3 days. 3 days. Miss Minnie said 4. I think I saw 7 somewhere. You need 3 days. At least 3 days. That's not to say 3 days is going to be magic. That means you need at least 3 days to see some maximum therapy in your system. All right, so Tanika's skin is itchy because she is having an allergic response from the pollen. Something in your home, Tanika, you need to evaluate what's in your home. Something in your home you tracked or have pollen in it, and so you need to make sure you're cleaning out some of these things that we're talking about. Make sure your windows aren't open, check your bedding, change your bedding. The thing that helps though are the antihistamines again. So histamine is a response that also causes itching. So a histamine response is a response that's also caused by itching. So how many of you have ever had a sore or a cut and you're like, oh yeah, I know it's getting better because it's itching? That's because there is a histamine response. The antihistamine, Claritin, Allegra, Zyrtec, they shut that response off. And so when they shut that response off, sometimes the itching gets better. Now you can use some creams on your skin, and so you want to make sure that you're washing your skin a couple times a day. Not indicating that you aren't already doing that. I'm just saying because the skin is irritated by pollen is most likely the culprit. You want to wash your skin a couple times a day. You want to use soap that doesn't have any alcohols in it, so no scented soap. You don't want any scented lotion. You don't want any scented body washes. You want to use things like Dove to help get to the basics of just your skin. Love on your skin a little bit. Put some extra lubrication on it. And just make sure your skin stays moisturized. Can use some hydrocortisone cream, which is helpful for itching. The main thing you're going to want to do is make sure you take away the pollen or the trigger. Keep your skin clean. Take your antihistamine. Cannot put steroids on your face. So if your face is itchy, you cannot put hydrocortisone cream on your face. That's a no. And so I saw one other thing. Yeah, you can't see it. That's the tricky part, is that you don't see it. And so it may be in something. Bye, Miss Minnie. Thank you for hopping on. If you're on Facebook, you can catch the full replay on Facebook. I'm just on both tonight. So thank you for tuning in on Instagram. All right, so you can't see it, but I bet if you have a problem and continue to have a problem, think about your car. Think about the most unlikely thing that you haven't already cleaned and try to start there, because something is actually making you trigger. Yep, and so Deanna, sometimes people do have to take sinus medications all year round because they are constantly triggered by something. Now, my trigger is ragweed. I'm mildly triggered this time of the year, but my major trigger is ragweed. So Taylor, how old is Taylor again? Taylor is still developing her immune system. And so hopefully as her immune system continues to develop, she will quote unquote outgrow some of this. Particularly if she has an asthmatic or a component that's irritating her airway and lungs, then you should see that she's starting to outgrow that. The other option, as Deanna has mentioned, is that you can get some allergy shots. All right, so you can get allergy shots. Let me go back really quickly. So you can get your Sudafed and your antihistamine together. And this is in like a Claritin D, an Allegra D, or Zyrtec D. So you can buy them together. I actually recommend patients to take them separately because lots of times you will need the antihistamine for a longer period of time than you will your decongestant. And so you can take them together. A couple things before people start hopping off you can try is a neti pot. So neti pots help to flush out your sinuses. And the pollen from your nose, remember we talked about you use your eyeglasses to help shield your eyes. The pollen from your nose. You want to dry your clothes inside. Who still has a clothesline? How many of you still have a clothesline? I'm from Eastern North Carolina. I know plenty of people with clotheslines. Don't be ashamed. My family still has one, yes. And so you need to try to dry your clothes inside with a dryer or a dryer rack as opposed to using the clothesline, because again, the pollen is going to saturate those clothes on the line. Make sure you're vacuuming. I think Ella talked about this in the carpet. You want to make sure that you're also changing the filters in your air conditioning and inside of your home. What else? Air conditioning in your car and inside your home, because you want to minimize the exposure with your windows being up. And so one more thing we need to touch on is allergy shots. Before I do that, make sure you all are sharing this video out. I hope this information has been helpful to you, because I know many of you and people you know have been suffering from allergies. And so I am hopeful that you have found this helpful. I saw a comment about some breathing, and I can't get back to it. Yes, so Latoya talked about Claritin D, and we just talked about the decongestant with the antihistamine. Now, probably what you're having, Toya, is you are having some of the effects. If you're asthmatic, remember the body responds like a foreign, like pollen is foreign. And people who are asthmatic or have had reactive airway, you do have to use your pump sometimes because of just the irritation to your lungs. What your lungs really start saying is, let me try to help her out by not letting this pollen into your airway. And when it does that, it actually makes you start to wheeze. It congests your airway. So it's thinking that it's helping you, but it's really not. And so a lot of times you have to use your pump to help open your airway back up. So I think that's all I can see on this. Tanika's on asthma pump now too. Yep. See, I just need to make sure that you stay on. I would recommend you be on your antihistamine, the decongestant, which Latoya said is helpful, and then keep on your inhaler because it is making a world of difference. So the last thing we're going to talk about is your shots. Has anybody ever had allergy shots? If you've ever had allergy shots or know somebody who's had them, put shots in the comments. Shots. Who's had allergy shots? Because they are helpful if medication. So we just talked about ways you can stop your pollen exposure. We talked about some medications that you can use. What I did not talk about are nasal sprays. I like steroid nasal sprays too. So I really like Flonase. There's some other ones, Nasonex, Nasacort. I like, as an add-on to your antihistamine, I like steroid nasal sprays, just as a side note too. So allergy shots you can use if your medications are not enough. So if you know somebody who's had allergy shots, you may know that they have to get those shots quite frequently, and so people just don't want to go to the office every week for your allergy shots. And so it is an attempt to modify your immune system. So remember, your body's immune system thinks that pollen is harmful. You're using the injection to help reprogram your immune system. So Deanna, you asked about Taylor. If you're seeing that she's not outgrowing her allergens or her triggers, at some point you might think about allergy injections, because you can help to see if it would reprogram her immune system. It's not definite, but it may actually help. The problem is that it does take a long time. So most people who have taken allergy shots, they do take them for 1 to 3 years. And so they don't see complete relief until about 1, if not 3 years, which means you have to go to the office about once a week, if not more frequently, depending upon how severe your allergies are. You have to go to the office once a week for the injections. You have to do this for about a year, anywhere from 1 year to 3 years. And so the shots modify your immune system's response to the allergen. So it helps decrease your responsiveness. So in most cases, it doesn't totally eradicate it. It does make it a little bit helpful. So for those of you who are not totally relieved by, very good job. So for those of you who are not totally relieved by medications, then you can, yes, it's almost time for bed though. For those of you who are not completely eradicated by the allergy medicines we talked about, you can talk about shots. Again, you're going to have to get those from an allergist because your regular primary care provider is not going to be able to give you allergy shots. You have to be monitored after you get them. You come in once a week, and you can imagine that their offices are booming this time of the year. So that is what you can do if you are not being responsive, or if your body is not responding to the actual shots. Now, let's recap what we talked about. Make sure you're sharing this out. I see some people who are just hopping on. You're going to have to watch the replay. We've been talking for a long time about pollen, why we need pollen in the environment, because it's helpful for the trees and the grass and all those other things. However, pollen can make your immune system respond in a way that makes you stuffy, congested, watery eyes. Lifestyle changes. We talked about some things you can do in your environment to help decrease your exposure. Avoiding trees, flowers, and grasses. Those things trigger your allergies. And try some medications, both over-the-counter, prescription, and if all else fails, you can take some allergy shots, which attempt to reprogram your immune system. And so that is our conversation about pollen. Again, if you are in Eastern North Carolina, I would appreciate if you all come out and support us at the 411 Health Fair, which is on Saturday at from 10 to 2. We are going to be there, and they're going to be giving away free health screenings. Y'all know we are all about getting you, letting you know your number, so you can do that health screening on Saturday. And I'd like for you all to join our challenge, bit.ly/Life Simple 7 Challenge. That's where we're going to talk about in-depth ways, 7 ways that you can live a longer life. They're not rocket science, but you just have to know how to put all the pieces together to help you make an impact. Remember to share this out so we can get other people engaged with knowing what pollen is, why we actually need the pollen, and what it means to you. And it is National Volunteer Week. And so If for those of you who volunteer in your own communities, in your own organizations, thank you for volunteering in your churches, in your neighborhoods, in organizations. It's National Volunteer Week, y'all. Many organizations would not be able to survive and function if it wasn't for people who volunteer their time, for people who volunteer their effort, for people who volunteer their support for missions that you love. So give yourselves a pat on the back if you are supportive for any organizations. I know they appreciate you. If you'd like to be a part of a volunteer with Zing Life Services, we are opening up our volunteer. We call them brand ambassadors. You don't have to be healthcare related. You don't have to know anything about our events. What we need is people who are willing to support us, are willing to help us spread care in the community. And we just want to make sure that we are being as effective as possible. So bit.ly/Zing volunteer is where you can go if you'd like to volunteer with us. I'll put that in the comments as well. bit.ly/Zing volunteer so that we can get you onboarded and just help us bring care to the community. That's all I have for you tonight. I hope you join me again next week for Wellness Wednesday. You'll see me bouncing back and forth between Zing Life Services and my page this week. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Bye.